actually thinking about nothing. So the way I'd like to describe it is if you're looking down, picture your thoughts like clouds.
Right.
And the clouds pass by, and then another thought comes in your head.
Yeah.
And it's, it's good stuff. It's things that are bothering you. It's things that I have to do today, things that I have to do next week, and guilt, and all these different emotions and thoughts are just going through my head. And every once in a while, every thought goes through my head. Everything plays out, and it's 100% calmness.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long I'm in that calmness, or I'm in that state.
Yeah, in that state, there's a separation of time, right, where time just kind of doesn't become a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. What you just perfectly explained, well done, by the way, is a meditative state of vipassana. And so there's a word for it. It comes from like this ancient Buddhist practice where you simply just observe your thoughts, but you don't add anything to them. Like your thoughts come in, but you don't really interact with them. You just kind of let them do their thing. And like you said, a cloud floating by and then it floats out. And then you're just waiting for the quiet. And that's, from my perspective, that's your subconscious trying to raise things for your awareness. And we'll get into, how your brain is your organ of survival. It starts throwing things up that says, should we pay attention to this? Should we pay attention to this? And your non-reaction to that proves two cool things. One, that you're not your mind, but you can observe your mind, which means there always needs to be a space between an observer and the observed. So you're proving to yourself that your own consciousness isn't the product of your mind, which is a really cool thing to notice. But then the other thing is...
Can you say that again?
That your consciousness is separate from your mind. Like if you can observe your mind from your consciousness, you're proving to yourself that it's not the same thing. That the observer that's sitting in the chair watching your mind isn't your mind, because a tooth can't touch itself or can't bite itself. A fingertip can't touch itself. An eyeball can't see itself without some distance in a mirror. There needs to be a space between the observer and the observed. And so at any point that you're observing your mind, you're proving to yourself you aren't your mind. Your mind is something that's doing, that's working for you, certainly in assistance of your existence, of your physiology. But your consciousness is something different. And when you dig into that, that's your true essence. It's not your mind and the things that are happening in your mind and the emotions that are arising and all this other stuff. That's a process of your physiology. You're the thing inside working your physiology, driving your physiology, experiencing this human existence, but you're not this thing and the operation of your mind if you can see your mind, because there has to be some distance between the observer and the observed.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating stuff. So what was your first download?
So the first thing that I got was the last thing that I lost everything, like the understanding of the whole universe, and I totally understood Satori at that point from a Zen perspective, right? And I don't think the Zen folks are right. I just think it was a practical method for them to get to the point that we naturally can find as humans, that we're designed to find, that puts us in touch with everything. But the stuff that I grabbed on the way back when I knew I was coming back to be me, and that I wanted to help teach people, I still had access to some stuff that I, didn't have access to in my human life in this expanded consciousness realm. And I said, let me bring back the process of pain and suffering. Let me bring back how the human mind works so that we can explain it to folks, so that they can start to take control of their mind, adjust the variables that they need to adjust to make their life amazing. And I got that stuff, and I put it in a couple of books that I then published, and 96% of the folks who are finding it are rating them 5 stars, and they're saying, this stuff changed my life. So I'm like, thank God I grabbed the right stuff on the way back. It's like there was so much information out there in the field that I could have tried to bring back and explain, and I grabbed just the right mix of stuff that I didn't know about, but that I kind of figured out how to unpack over time and put into a couple of books and some whatever videos that I put out on the internet for free and all this other stuff. It's like, that's what I want to deliver.
We'll link all that, your book and all everything will be linked below.
Nice. Yeah. So I put that into the stuff that I try to communicate. And it helps people take control of their mind and shows them the control knobs that they can take and change the things that'll change their whole emotional landscape for the rest of their life. Because if you think about it, emotions are the things that drive us, like we talked about at the top, but it's also the things that can ruin our existence. Like it's the sadness and the fear and the anger and the worry and regret and all that stuff that permeates your mind because you're not taking control of your mind and adjusting the variables to turn that stuff down. Science shows us in fMRI studies that you can grab those variables and literally turn your brain on or off in certain areas to hack your mind, which is why I was, the moniker of the book was Mind Hacking Happiness. Like there's a way to take control of those variables and literally control the brain reactivity that creates the stuff that causes trials and troubles and tribulations, et cetera, but then can also free you from that whole process, which changes your life and then changes the lives of those around you, because not only is it just your personal existence is better, which then affects all the cool people around you that you love and don't want to hurt, but then you start to bleed into them, and your positivity and your control of understanding your own shit can be passed on to them. And like my kid is one of the most emotionally intelligent kids in his class and has no problem with a lot of the things that middle schoolers will have a problem with, because he's got that presence of understanding how his mind works, and he understands where his fear comes from. He understands what his frustrations are, and he can turn them down at will at 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you even begin to control this?
Well, the cool thing is there's a hardwired hack in your mind that helps you control it for you. So the easiest way to explain this is like when you go, your brain is your organ of survival, okay? So it's there to help you figure out what's a danger and what's not, okay? So when you walk by a coil on the ground, there's this thing called your limbic system, and specifically your amygdala, that'll look down, glance out of the corner of your eye and say, oh my God, that's a snake, right? And so the fear kicks in to your amygdala and it starts dumping adrenaline into your system to prepare for fight or flight to get you away from the threat, okay? So at the moment that you look down and you see that that coil on the ground is not a snake, but it's a hose, okay? Your brain, as your organ of survival, has to have a way to turn off your negative shit immediately, because the adrenaline dump and all the stuff that's happened a moment ago to prolong your survival is now going to limit your survival by wasting those resources that you would need to run away from a hose, which you don't, right? But you may need those resources 100 yards down the line when a bear walks out of the woods in front of you and you need that adrenaline, right? So there needs to be a way for your thinking mind to turn off your negative reaction to that snake now hose. And so there's a specific circuit, and we don't have to go deep in the weeds of neuroscience, but there's a specific circuit in the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex and the medial prefrontal cortex that literally sends a signal back to your limbic system, says, shut the fear off. We don't need it anymore. Stop the adrenaline dump, and it reacts immediately and turns off the negative reactivity that your mind has going on at the moment, because you don't need that fear. There's a way to hack that system.
This happens subconsciously.
Yeah, subconsciously. It's helping, your brain is there to help you, right? Your brain is there to do what you need it to do to help your survival. And that's why, it'll change in form and function, like you learn how to shoot a basketball and all of a sudden it becomes muscle memory. It's not really muscle memory. That's your brain saying, I'm going to take this over for a subconscious process to say, we're always going to hit that three, right? You learn how to play piano. All of a sudden it becomes automatic, where you just start the song and now you're just listening to it as your body's playing the notes. Right? You do crossword puzzles. Your brain, your subconscious mind works those things quicker, starts to aligning this thought process to say, oh, I've seen that clue before. And you're filling out your crossword puzzle faster based on what intention that you've set for it. Well, over time, when you start managing your emotions, it'll start doing the same thing. And so if you're like a mess psychologically in life and you start to take control of your emotional landscape, over time, your mind makes you that Zen master walking around observing the world exploding around him and not really reacting to it unless there's something directly that needs to be done. That's a cool kind of place to be, where life could be going to hell in a handbasket, and yet you're calm and controlled and can make intelligent decisions based on the information that you have ahead of you.
So this all came to you with in one meditation
Yeah.
setting.
It was a hell of a meditation, but yeah, and that's what expanded consciousness is all about. Because this whole thing, for me, the experience itself, felt like it was thousands to millions of years long.
Really?
Like, I learned that much stuff. Now, I lost a lot of it coming back into the limited physiology that I have. Like, we're really dumb as human beings. Like, we totally overestimate our intelligence level compared to what there is to know. But, yeah, when you dip into that space of expanded consciousness, and I've got theories about this, we can talk about this later, but you're dipping into like a non-local awareness that transcends, just like quantum mechanics does, transcends space and time. Like, quantum mechanics is showing us that in that realm that creates space and time, it is beyond the effects of space and time. Like, you can have backwards in time